Okay, so we will simply continue on. We will start with now part two, which is going to cover your legislative toolkit. So at the moment, we have Karen Suhuka. She is the founder and the catalyst for the company Legislation and has created the stellar online platform BillTrack 50 to help us keep tabs on what is happening with our legislative bodies. Now, BillTrack 50 is its own platform and an app, in large part free to everybody to use. But this platform is also very integrated into GeorgiansForTheArts.org. So later when I give a tour, you're going to see how it works in action as it relates to what we're talking about today. So Karen, please take it away.
Great. Hi, everybody. Very much apologize for my voice. I'm going to do my best, and then when it gives out, we're done. So let's see what we can do. We're just going to do a live demo real quick so that you can see what BillTrack 50 can do. It is free for anyone to use, but Patrick can also get you in so that you can view some of his bills and do your own searches. So that is another option. So all of this is free. This is just an opportunity. All right, here we go. Sharing the screen. All right, did that work? Are you guys seeing the
Yes.
BillTrack 50 screen? Okay, so I am logged in as Patrick right now, but this is the home screen. And the idea of BillTrack 50 is it's a 50-state legislative tracker. And we also have Congress in here. So we're constantly looking at the new bills being introduced and putting them into our database so that you can research them, see them, follow them, get alerts about them, share them with others. So we're trying to be a good home for you to start your research. So one of the best tools we've got is this little quick search right here. And so this will let you look for any bill or any legislator that you're interested in. And so from the earlier conversation, I saw that perhaps I would like to search for a bill that has these words in it. So I could say sales, tax, and arts, and see what comes up. And it'll get from this current session all the bills that had those words in them. And it's just a simple keyword search. So you can check these out. And if you come back and do it again, next year you'll see what bills have been introduced. And this data is constantly refreshed. You might also want to say, hey, what are all the bills that have the word casino? And then you can keep up with all of the casino bills too, and just keep an eye on it. Whatever it is you need to know, you can look up. And if you hear a bill number that you want to look up, that's easy too. So you just can type in any old bill number that somebody mentions in a session like this, and then find out what's going on with that. All right, so if I click on this bill number, this is going to take me in so that I can actually see the bill. Not a surprise. So this is the basic information about it. Some legislators that sponsored it. We'll do a deeper dive into legislators in a minute. As it goes through the process, these little boxes light up. Then the text of the bill, the actions. So as it moves through the legislative process, so it gets introduced into one house, heard in committee, has a vote, sent to the other house, they do the same thing. If they need to, they agree on whatever changes they were, and off it goes to the executive to get signed. Simple. Votes. So this is a quick little peek that you might find helpful. So as it goes through the process, of course, people have to say what they're thinking. So if I click on the detail here, you can see the yeses by party, the noes by party, and who missed the vote. And then you can see individual people and how they voted. So this can be helpful if you're trying to figure out who you want to thank and who maybe is not going to get a thank you. And then the documents, these are just links back to the state website in case you would like to do more research. So we're always going to try to get you back to where we got the data from. So you can read any of the official text, the fiscal note, go to the bill page itself, that kind of thing. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. I don't really want to belabor this part. I want to spend a little more time on the sponsors. So you can either do a legislator search over here and search for anyone by name, first name, last name, whatever you know, or you can click on a legislator. So let's check out Shaw. And we've got tons of information for you. So this is where you can start your cyber stalking project. So we've got his Facebook, his Twitter, his LinkedIn, put an email for him, different ways to call and show up. We also have links to his official stuff, of course, but also Ballotpedia, which will show you how much he won his election by, plus tons of other information. So that's a great place to start building your bio for him. And also Follow the Money, which gives you all his campaign finance information of what he has given money to and who has given money to him. So those are good things to get to know a person. You can also see the bills he's sponsored, so you can see the sorts of things he cares about, the votes he's taken. If you would like to see all his votes for all time, there's a little export button down here, and that'll just spit out years and years worth of votes if you are so inclined. You can see the committees that he's on. You can see some staff to start reaching out to. A little bit of a bio. Sometimes it's a lot of bio, sometimes it's a little, but if you want more, Ballotpedia is your place. And then a Twitter feed so that you can just see, what he's talking about and what he cares about and sorts of things he's linking into. So that's a good place to start researching a legislator. Then the third piece of data we've got is these committees, and this is going to be exactly what you think. So if I click on a committee, then it'll just give me the committee, the staff of the committee if you want to ask them any questions, the link to the official committee page on the state legislature website so that you can go off there and do more research. And so that's available either because you've bumped into it researching a bill or a legislator, or you can go straight and do a committee search. So that's the data. There's a lot in here that you can access, and you can, we also have an app, and you can search around in the app and look up legislators and bills as well on the go. But the website is a bigger experience, obviously, than the app. Okay, then I mentioned searching, but I also said you could keep track of bills. So Bill Sheets is where you save a search, and then we'll keep it updated. So if I open this section, we'll see that Patrick has done a lot of work, and he does a lot of searches, and he keeps track of quite a lot of bills. In fact, he looks at all the bills that come in, and then he's going to share a lot of his other information with you here in a minute. But you can see he's also set up some different searches so that he can keep up with things that have certain words in them. So for example, we have this federal search that we did about COVID and nonprofits. So we set up a query. We say, give us all the bills that have either nonprofit or have both these words, nonprofit and relief, and then mention some COVID-y word. And then that's it. So we say that, and then we check every day, see if any new bills have been introduced. And then you can set up alerts, excuse me, to see when the bill moved, like to get a notice that a bill has been introduced that you might care about. And if there's any votes or actions, then we'll send you a further email to let you know that something is happening. And then Patrick has got this box checked saying that he's keeping track of when these get scheduled to be heard in committee. So you can also set that up and either get an email every day of when your stuff is coming up, or you can just see a list of them here, or you can actually drop them onto your own Google Calendar or Outlook calendar, and then we'll keep the hearings up to date on your own calendar so that you know when the hearings are coming up and you can go have a chat or testify or whatever it is you're going to need to do. So all of you can come in here and set up your own searches on the things that you would care about. And it's really easy to do. So you can say, hey, I want to make a new sheet, and I'm going to call it Music in Georgia. It's late where I am. I apologize. Okay, and then you say, hey, it's Georgia. And then I would like to have all bills that have the word music. And it'll go and find them. This is for this year. There was 120 of them. Maybe you're familiar with all of them, maybe you're not. Some of them, of course, as we mentioned, were the resolutions. You can include those or you can leave those out. So if you only want the actual laws, you can do that too. And see some of these things that maybe you want to take a look at. But this way, at least you'll get an email if something gets introduced so that you don't, like, hopefully you already knew about it. But just in case, this was your insurance policy, right? That everything that you see about the sale of tickets for music events, that you hear about that. So that is the tool. Patrick, is there anything else you wanted me to highlight?
No, not right now, because this was a quick primer. The two things to also carry forward will be Number one, on our YouTube channel, we have a pretty significant playlist connected to Karen's products. And momentarily, when I do the tour of our Arts Action Center, you can see how this is being used. I'll also share two things. One, I do have to give credit where credit is due. BillTrack 50, what we see here in terms of the bill sheets, they're integrated with the bill sheets that Americans for the Arts is also tracking. So we're connected.
Yes,
And I don't know
lets you
why you
talk with the
decided
people at
to,
National too. Yeah.
and I don't know why you decided to pull up, Shaw Blackman as the representative, because he's the one that killed my House Resolution 821.
It's such a minefield. You never know. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Didn't mean to bring back bad memories.
Yeah, so as chair of that particular committee, he's the one that would not give it a hearing, and therefore, after 2 years, it dies. So, but well, better luck next year. So I know you have an extraordinarily important meeting to attend momentarily. You're going to find a lot of information on georgiansforthearts.org regarding this information in action and more information about BillTrack 50. I am a huge champion of the product. It is extraordinarily useful, and begin January 9 when that legislative session opens. Then every day I'm going to begin getting the emails and thumb through them, find out what is new that has to get tagged or flagged for later review. So that's the key thing. You got to keep tabs on all this. So Karen, again, thank you very much for taking time out. I hope you find your voice again. Like I said, I'll be sharing all the information, most I already have, as you full well know, with everybody here, so that we can better use this this fantastic tool that you have created.
You're too kind. I put my email in the chat, so if any of you would like to reach out to me, I'm happy to help you figure out how to find what you're looking for or answer any questions at all. All right, take care, everybody. It's nice to meet you.
You're a rock star. Thank you. Okay, coming to the tail end of all this, so I'm going to try to go through a lot of this quickly to be respectful of time. So the next segment here to look at is what Georgians for the Arts has in place and is making available to you as Georgia's arts and culture champions. So if you haven't already had a chance to kind of poke around georgiansforthearts.org, I'm not going to do a walkthrough. I just want to show you the main things that you need to know. So from our main page, top bar here, what I want to show you is the advocacy and education sections of our site. So this Arts Action Center is kind of our main dashboard. This is where we have BillTrack 50 and Voter Voice, both of them being platforms connected with Americans for the Arts. This is where everything is kind of happening here. So what we have with this particular dashboard, at least today, is it's only displaying active items. So right now, federal issues, events, and surveys. There are federal issues by way of Americans for the Arts. There is an event because you're here, and we have one survey. So anything that's active is here. They also provide the tool to find specific legislation, just like BillTrack 50, as well as your own officials. So if you really want to know who they are. So taking the next step here, those are the campaigns we're looking at. And right now, Georgians for the Arts has one survey and one event. On the right is obviously the event you're here for today. And the survey has been out there for a little while, still trying to get some traction in order for there to be an official creative license plate here in the state of Georgia. We have the ability, we just need the interest. Moving on. So this is where we have BillTrack 50 integrated into our website. It is, right now it's a work in progress because the session has not begun. But if you do visit this, you can see how a specific representative has voted. And as time progresses and legislation is becoming more active again, every piece of legislation is going to get tagged with a score. And then whether they vote again in favor of, against something, or just not vote at all, plus if they're a sponsor, they'll begin to get that score assigned to them. So you know who's pro-arts and who's not so pro-arts. So this has to do with the Georgia legislation. I don't have it here, but if you just scroll down, you will then see what we have on the national level, the congressional scorecard that Americans for the Arts produces. By way of BillTrack 50, this is these are all the bills or pieces of legislation. I can't even say bills. A lot of this between bill resolutions, recognitions, to commend, all kinds of fun things. They are the ones that are being tracked here on our website. This one here, for today's demonstration purposes, it is tracking everything that is active and inactive from the last 2 years. So if it passed, it would not normally be here. But as we move forward, things will begin to replace what we see here. So we have quite a few things here. Again, there we have House Bill 586, and from there we can begin to kind of drill down and get some of those details. So this is all of the legislation that we're currently tracking. If you want to take it one step further and want to know where it is in the process, well, you move on to the legislation status. And so right now, again, everything is tagged so that if it was recently introduced, perhaps it has been crossed over from one chamber to the other, and then active legislation that is currently still up for consideration. So you can get a lot of information through these two. Depends on how you like to digest your information. With any bill, and just like Karen presented, with any bill that we're currently tracking, you can easily find more information on that. Your summary, if you want to really read the full text. And I know there was one question about the sales tax exemption. You head over there to our page, find that particular resolution, which is in this case HB 586, and you can see what the language says about this. But we have quite a bit of information there. Moving on, still under the advocacy education, we have a lot of other education resources. So this is the page where I mentioned before, we have a couple of videos, recordings of our congressional meetings. And then out of North Carolina, they have put together themselves a stellar playlist regarding advocacy and how to undertake this initiative. So I'll also say that outside of these videos, we're going to be uploading a lot more information, but I also don't believe recreating the wheel. So that being said, if you want some other fantastic, stellar, unrivaled information, head over to Arts Georgia, artsgeorgia.net, because they've been doing this a lot longer than we have. And they have some really great assets to use. One of the last sections here to focus in on is our Election Central, which will cover both candidate educational materials and then eventually platform statements. So thumb through this. This is probably the one page where you can gather everything you might need in order to make that persuasive case. So, where does the national parties stand on all this stuff? We have current fact sheets for why the arts matter. It's all economic information. Congressional Ask, a huge arts handbook out of DC. If we scroll down a bit more, we're going to have the creative industries, Tina Lilly's economic impact within Georgia. And then further down on the same page with candidate education are all of the economic prosperity reports. the full reports that are of interest to Georgians, as well as the community level reports. Moving forward, what the heck does all this mean? All right, so briefly, 2023 legislative session begins on January 9. It is currently slated to close or end on April 2. About, I think it's 30 days or so into the session is when the crossover day happens. So if anything has not gotten kind of pushed through one chamber or the other, it will not cross over and then be further considered for this particular session. So a lot of it's going to be working toward that crossover day of February 6th. It's kind of going to get into a civics lesson for the moment, but it isn't very important to understand the process for which all this happens. You have an idea. Some of those ideas are to react, but you can yourself have a problem, if you will, and approach your representative for a possible solution. Lobbyists will often hand over the language that they want to see passed. Other ones, it's nothing more than some basic language. Here, copy this into a document and read it before the legislature. It can be quite simple. But once you have an idea on paper, it gets through to the assembly itself. It becomes all that wonderful legalese that we find hard to read. And then it is filed with the assembly. We are seeing a lot of pre-filings. Session has not even begun yet, but there are a lot of items that have been filed already, and they will not be read until January 9. Once it gets into session, they'll have their first reading. It gets into the committee, and it's the committee that's going to be where we want to focus our attention on. Assigned to a committee, there's a second reading, which is a formality. But once it gets into the committee, they'll either do nothing and just kind of hold on to it. They'll approve, deny it, or approve it with changes. Once it gets from there, it goes on to the general calendar, goes in for a third reading, and then from that third reading, it will be voted on by that chamber. If it does pass that chamber, it crosses over into the other chamber. And then if it's approved there, then if there's a lot of language issues, they'll try to reconcile the language, but the essence of the legislation will have passed, goes to, in this case, Governor Kemp. He'll sign, he'll veto, or basically he'll do nothing, and after 40 days, it becomes law. So we can go back to Schoolhouse Rock on how bills are made. How do you know who to contact if you have issue? Well, from our Arts Action Center, to find your officials, you search. You'll have your opportunity to look at your zip code, then your address. And for my address, that's all I have to enter. I now have a full listing of federal and state representatives. And you'll see there, that's not a bullet point. That is a checkbox. You want to send a message to all of my state officials? Fine. Check, 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 check. And then now you can have a direct connection to them, at least by way of email. You can also, of course, get more information on them to know where their office is, mailing address, telephone number. So you have lots of ways that you can contact your reps. All right, so what is it you want to, or what idea or ideas do you have? Well, in Georgians for the Arts case, we did two things in the last couple of years. One, we proposed a bill. It didn't pass, but we proposed it anyway. There may be resolutions that are trying to tweak or otherwise change existing bills. Amala said that they had already pushed forward a study for music heritage. If you have somebody that you want to recommend and kind of have a memorial to, or to recognize, or to commend, or to encourage, or some other thing that you want to see created through the legislature, you ask for it. So we asked for a bill, and we asked for a proclamation. It wasn't hard to do. It was more or less a, telephone call. So that was kind of what you're asking for. I'm sorry, who to ask from, what you might want to ask for, and when should you ask for it? All year round. Right now, if we're thinking about putting forth legislation for the next session, it's probably too late for it to get much traction. It really does need to be kind of in the forethought of the minds of our representatives instead of when they get there in Atlanta and begin to deliberate. Because when they're there, they're going to talk about 1,200 bills. So there's a lot of them. But all year round, keep them in mind, approach them. They can do pre-filings at any time during the year. And then, of course, right now, as we approach January 9, that's going to be the key time to keep in a contact with them. How do you contact them? Whatever means you want. It's easy. We already have their contact information. Most effective is probably going to be scheduling a meeting with them or one of their staffers, telephone call, email, write them a letter. Take Mala's page from the playbook, sit down with the committee. If you really need to, take more of an aggressive action. I'm not sure that's the right word for it. Put forth a petition or have some other very large campaign for action. And that's what we've been having to do because it's been reactive to legislation and not proactive. So, told you before, Georgians for the Arts asked for a proclamation. This is it. Sample proclamation was issued by Americans for the Arts prior to October of last year. This sample proclamation is National Arts and Humanities Month, being in October. I take that language, tweak it if I want to. In my case, I will type up a letter to the county of Chatham County, and they say, yeah, okay, we'll do it. They'll do this. They hand it over and, ceremonial thing. They love this stuff. And there you have your county proclamation. Pick up the telephone, call Mayor Johnson, say, hey, Van, I want a proclamation from Savannah because it's Arts and Humanities Month. Okay, Patrick, we like you, so we'll give it to you. Done. So now I have two proclamations, one from the county and one from the city. Why not the governor? Okay, fine. You go over to the governor's website, you want a proclamation, you want to commend somebody, or you just want a letter from the governor for something, you go to the website for the governor, you request it. Give them the language, which is what I did. On the left side there, that's the proclamation from Governor Kemp issued last October. It did not take much effort. Key element here is you are going to keep your interest in mind always. So it's not just a one-time thing, it's all year round. They can't forget you. Year-round strategy, what is it you have to do? It's quite simple. Number one, communicate with your representatives. Keep them educated. New report comes out. Arts and Economic Prosperity report comes out next year. Don't wait until you need to share it with them. Share it with them when it becomes available. Last one, invite them. Invite them to your facilities, invite them to your performances, invite them to your exhibits, whatever it is that you have available, invite them. Now, in some instances, there will be that policy of gift giving. So be careful of that because we don't want to jeopardize anything. But if you have a dress rehearsal, turn that into a special event for your VIP patrons, invite them because everybody is getting in for free. So there's no more money being exchanged. So it's just a simple workaround. That's a lot. I think this is being recorded, so if you need to, you can go back and slow it down. But for today, being December 15, I will say that this very quickly comes to a conclusion with part 2 of the 2023 Georgia legislative session preview. As mentioned before, hope you found it insightful. Hope you can use the information as you move into 2023 when your next legislation session begins on January 9. Thank you for joining us today, and consider joining Georgians for the Arts to help build that statewide network of arts and culture champions. Gratitude.